Welcome to How I Built My Airbnb. I'm Tony Molina, your host and the owner of Mesa Tavira and Riviera Design Hosting. On this show, we dive into the stories of Airbnb hosts and owners. We'll explore their journeys, unpack the highs and lows, and uncover insights that inspire other hosts. In this episode, we welcome Taylor King, Airbnb curator and creator of 3 luxury boutique homes in Nashville: Archer House, Music Hall, and Holiday House. Taylor, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Tony.
So let's get right into it.
Yeah,
What inspired you back in the day to become an Airbnb host? Tell us the story.
you got it. So, long story short, my parents they found themselves in 2008 with a little bit of cash just to throw it all the way back. And homes were suddenly half off in 2008. They were able to purchase some property around Memphis that was pretty darn cheap, which worked out really nice for them, and ended up closing houses, and ended up with 150 houses in Memphis somehow, some way. And so
150. Okay. I didn't realize that.
150, which is kind of wild. And I mean, all of
Okay.
these are like $20,000, $30,000 homes. Long story short, my parents were able to just get a call from some investors, and about 10 years later, 2018, and they said, listen, we see your portfolio and we want to buy the whole thing from you guys. And they're like, oh, that sounds kind of nice. You can, give us an offer and we'll see what happens from there. So they ended up sending over an offer, worked out nicely, and they're like, all right, we have this money. We want to 1031 it, which means putting it back into land so you don't have to pay the the big taxes on it, I guess. So they are like, instead of Memphis, Tennessee, let's maybe go up to Nashville, Tennessee, which is kind of like Nashville's cool older cousin. And this is kind of like the perfect peak time, or not peak time, but right before the peak of Nashville, right before all those 2020 prices hit. So they were going around and looking for properties, and they found this really cool, just built 12 townhome complex, which is on 8th Avenue South, just south of downtown. 15 minutes from the airport, just like a perfect location, 4 bedrooms each, just really cool looking townhomes. And they decided to purchase that. And with that, they got a property management company and an interior designer, made them all funky and crazy. Dude, there's like um, banana scratch and sniff wallpaper in these places, just like crazy funky units. Anyways, they were crunching some numbers and they were like, we can either throw long-term tenants in there or we can make them short-term rentals and maybe make a little bit more per month. So they ended up doing that, which is when they called in the interior designer and everyone to make it pop. Um, and yeah, so from there, we had a property management company, like I said. But for some reason, I had so many opinions. I wanted to know if we're writing the guest letters. Are we, I was going in before, any of the stays and chopping pillows and making sure everything looked good. And I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and no one else. They're like, Taylor, why? It doesn't matter. We have people, cleaners and stuff to be able to do. There were some other properties in our area that were for sale. And we ended up purchasing one of those properties. And my dad said, I have an idea. I was living in South Carolina at the time. And he was like, how about you move to Nashville? We'll build a side by side unit where you can live on one side with roommates and then we'll Airbnb out the other. That was one of my first experiences with helping build and then design and then manage an Airbnb. So, really, it was through my parents, me having a lot of opinions, and then getting hired on by them.
That's cool. That's a cool story. So I would imagine a lot of people listening to this probably have that kind of conversation. They're considering buying a home or maybe like an apartment building. They think, do I long term rent this or do I Airbnb it out? What was the kind of deciding factor about why your family decided to do the Airbnb versus a long term renting?
I'm the oldest of 5 kids, and trying to travel and find hotel rooms for 7 people was a little pricey. So instead of hotels, we would always look for really funky Airbnbs to stay in. If we were going to New York or going to a cousin's wedding in Seattle, we always tried to find the one with, you know, turf on the walls and architecture, just really crazy cool stuff. And that was kind of the inspiration behind the whole Airbnb situation was, well, I know that it's good for us. We always decide to stay in these things for larger groups, and especially groups coming to Nashville. It's not your typical sweet couples getaway. It's more so we're bringing the whole family. We're coming to Nashville. Let's get our cowboy boots, or bachelorette parties, or different things like that. So we know that we needed to help out that larger group mentality. We were coming to town.
That's cool. I know before I started hosting, my wife and I would stay at Airbnbs or even, hotels, like boutique hotels, and we'd
Yep,
stay there and we'd think, we could do this. Like, wait,
totally.
this design, this lobby, we want to recreate that. And that's something that we did at Mesa de Vera. So that's really cool that that was the inspiration for your family as well.
Hmm.
Now let's talk
Hmm.
about the inspiration behind the specific themes. Specifically, you have a home music hall. Love the
Yes.
home, downtown Nashville. It has some really unique aspects about it. Talk to me about how you came up with a theme for this and how you put that together.
Nashville is kind of exploding in the short-term rental realm. Now there are a little bit more hoops that you have to jump through with different regulations and things and historic overlays or things like that. But there are currently 10,000 Airbnbs in Nashville. Everyone wants to own an Airbnb here, whether you're a local or an investor coming into town. I just recently got my real estate license and I'm getting calls from California, from Chicago. I'm looking for $1 million to spend on an Airbnb in Nashville. So people, it's just kind of become a huge influx. And not all of those are really caring about the guest experience. So many of them, sometimes with investors, it's like just throw furniture in there and let's just crank out some money. And so the neighborhood that we've invested in for a few of these Airbnbs is pretty much like a short-term rental neighborhood. So there
Hmm.
are, I think, 100, literally between 75 and 100 within this like small neighborhood. And so many of them just did not really care so much about the design or the just like the guest experience, I guess. And if that's just something that you or I care a lot about to kind of think through. And what was nice is instead of just purchasing a unit, like I said before, we were able to build it from the ground up. So literally from drawing the plans, we were like, do we want 3 bedrooms? Do we want 4 or 5? And we decided on 5 so that we can sleep 5 couples, have ensuite bathrooms, different things like that. We put an elevator in there because there's really cool views of downtown Nashville from the 3rd floor. So we were like, let's put why put a, primary bedroom on the 3rd floor when that window's usually closed? Let's make it this gorgeous, living area. That's been really great because people have been able to bring their grandparents, or it's just like ADA compliant. So that has just like helped a lot with people. So many Nashville buildings are tall and skinny, so steps aren't always the best. So we were able to kind of stand out among these 75 or 100 around us by adding elevator, rooftop area. We put a karaoke stage in there. My parents thought I was crazy. They're like, no one's going to use that. Everyone's been using the karaoke stage, whether it's for a 60th birthday party or a bachelorette party. That's been hilarious to see that. But just putting in different amenities that we feel are a little bit above and beyond the typical bed, pillow, bedside table, kitchen, bar stools type situation. We've also added in a hot tub. Really enjoy artwork as well. And I got in touch with someone who did the set design for the show Nashville. And she was like, girl, come to my warehouse, which was massive, and just pick through anything that you want. I'll give you a deal on anything that you want. So we have some like artwork and like some chairs from the show Nashville, which I think is really cool, kind of pulling in some local elements. We made every room a different theme when it comes to music. So there's like a 70s room with a big like 70s stripe, and a rock and roll room with a neon sign that says rock and roll with like lip wallpaper, just crazy stuff that's memorable, Instagrammable, and something that like me or my friends would be like, oh, this is cool.
Okay, so that's awesome.
Yeah,
For the average person listening, they might think like, whoa, 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 whoa. How would I be able to come in and build like multiple buildings? Not only, it takes a lot of financial assets, but
for
also
sure.
just a lot of time and money. So how did you manage that? Or maybe what would be like one piece of advice that you could share to someone who's considering doing what you're doing in this case, taking homes, building from scratch, building a theme, reaching out to people, finding specific themes for each room, even, which is amazing. How did you become so successful at that?
Really, it's just I love networking. I love just like being creative. I love going and just like you and Lindsay, I just love going and staying at different places and gathering that inspiration. Whenever I did have maybe a smaller budget for some, like we have an Airbnb down the street on 12 South, which is a kind of an up and coming area of Nashville. And I tried to think through different ways to make it seem, just to like add some small amenities, I added in a margarita machine for $150, robes that I got from Amazon, which were $28 a pop, a hammock out back, a karaoke machine in there as well, because why not? You're in Nashville, you need a karaoke machine. Under $1,000, those small things, people are like, let's stay in that place. I use Instagram a lot to be able to attract, to build trust with potential guests. I have my like link listed on Airbnb. You can kind of sneak it into the photos or in the description, just to be like, feel free to check us out here to see what it's like to stay. So people utilizing that to be able to check out the space. Sometimes those things were the reason why people booked the $150 margarita machine. So there's different ways, even if you arbitrage a unit or anything, there's different ways. Just put yourself in the shoes of the guest and like, what's in the surrounding area? How can you bring that city in?
Most people would look around and say, okay, there's 75, 100 other Airbnbs in this neighborhood. No, thank you.
Yeah.
So, a testament to you and what you did. Clearly, you created an experience that did stand out, right? And that is the key. There's also two factors of this, and something that I learned early on was like, there's the picture side when a guest is looking through your Instagram or looking through
Hmm.
the listing, and they notice that one margarita machine or the karaoke machine that stands out. They
Yep.
send it, they share it to their friend that's also thinking, and they're like, wait, how cool would this be sipping margaritas and at the karaoke machine, right?
Totally.
It only cost you a few $100s to do that. It's not like you had to like build a whole room dedicated to
Nope.
that. So there's the like that'll stand out in their memory side, but also the algorithm side, which I personally love.
Hmm. Hmm. And
Airbnb has hundreds of amenities, right? They want
yes.
all those boxes checked. The more boxes that are checked there, you'll increase the chances of you ranking higher in search rankings. And
Amen. Yeah.
especially in a city like Nashville, you're competing with sounds like a lot of other Airbnbs. So you
Hmm.
want to find your specific advantages there, and you can do so without having to spend thousands of dollars. So I
Exactly.
find that really cool and inspiring that you're able to do that. I couldn't help but notice when I was looking through your reviews that every single review, at least the last 20 or so, especially on the music hall, mentioned you. It said Taylor was such an incredible host. Taylor was the best host. Taylor did this. Taylor did that. Taylor wrote us a note. All the reviews were commenting on how amazing the experience was because of the host. Can you share more on kind of how you created this experience and how you came up with this and how you consistently offer such an incredible experience clearly to guests?
Totally. So I know that it stands out to me whenever I travel and I have a accommodating host, and just little things that go above and beyond mean a lot, especially if you're traveling in another country or they give you a couple suggestions on places to go, or there's fresh towels here. You walk in and there's some little amenities in a note, whether it be a champagne bottle or some local coffee or something that just means a lot to me. And so I wanted to be able to provide that for my guests as well. And this has really become my full time job. And it's really not that hard just to think through things that I know that I would like to be able to do that. So, a couple things. Communication. I have like this specific cadence of communication that I like to go out. So right after you book, and I use Hospitable, by the way. I don't know if anybody uses some property management back end systems, but Hospitable has been my favorite. You can tailor messages to have their name, their check in time, whatever, and just create this really beautiful welcome message. Links for private chef services, discounted private driver services, fill the fridge services, get a cake delivered to the house, different things like that that my guests would maybe appreciate, especially those who are maybe at a higher price point because we've added all those darn amenities and need to make up the money for it. And so we typically find the person who is wanting to get the fridge filled and hire the private driver and different things like that. So I kind of list out some of those amenities in there for them to kind of add on to their experience. So I think that from the first minute that they book, they go to the Instagram, see how that's all about, book, get all of the links for different things. And I found those people really just through networking after I opened the Airbnbs, one by one they would open, but I would kind of look online and also just like talk to different people. Do you guys know any private drivers around here? Googling, using Instagram. I'll follow other Airbnbs. I'll follow the city of Nashville and things to do in Nashville. And I'll come across these different services that my guests I feel like would appreciate and utilize. So I reach out to them, set up a coffee with them. And what's nice too is sometimes they offer kickback deals too. So anybody who books with a private chef and spends $3,000 on this amazing meal overlooking the city, I get 10% of that, which is great. And all I did was put the link in my first message that was automated by Hospitable. So there's that. And at the end of that message, I'll say, I'm going to reach out to you 2 weeks from your stay and touch base and see if you guys need anything. Another automated message goes out exactly 2 weeks before their stay. And then I say, I'm going to reach out again in 3 days before your stay. So they kind of know when I'm going to reach out next with what specific information. So I think that makes them feel a little bit more taken care of, possibly, or like in the know of what's going to happen. And then they get like a personalized door code. I love using Schlage door locks. I have it on my phone and I can unlock and lock the doors from my phone. So if someone forgets the code or something, I'm able to utilize that. It's been really fun to see them utilize those experiences and really enjoy it. I mean, the past guests, there's a bunch of girls that stayed this past weekend over at Archer House, and they, brought in the private chef, got a cake and everything, had a photographer come by. And it was just so cool to see photos from that too and have them share that with me. I love creating memories with people that I love, and for that to happen in spaces that I've helped create is just huge for me. And anybody can do
That
that.
Right. Anyone can do that. Exactly.
Yeah.
You just set up a system where you have personalization, but you're able to automate a lot of it. And that's as a key, especially as you start to manage multiple homes. And you can keep the personalization and you can automate that as well. And so you gotta find the right balance there. But letting guests know that you are there and available right away, and then setting the expectation that, hey, I'm gonna reach out proactively to you 2 weeks
Yep.
before you check in. That's a big part of staying at Airbnb. You when you book a trip in a new city, right? Let's say this is the first time a lot of people are coming to Nashville,
Hmm.
and then you don't hear from the host until maybe never, or even after you check in. It's a little
Yep.
nerve wracking. You're like, is this real? What's going
Is
on
this
here?
happening? Yep.
Yeah. Everyone does it. We're all human. So the fact that you reach out and stay connected consistently, clearly it shows in your reviews. I mean, people love that.
Thanks.
You and I chatted before the show, and you told me about an experience that I absolutely love. I've been thinking about this. I talked to Lindsay about this. I was like, how do we do this? You have connection to a songwriter. Tell me more about the experience that you give guests and how you found this and what that entails.
Instagram has just been a huge lifesaver for me, whether it comes to direct booking with guests or learning about different experiences that I could bring in for guests who are staying in Nashville. But one thing that I've had people request in the past was like, can we have a songwriter session at the house? Can we have a couple artists come and play some music? And there's different venues around Nashville as well that offer that sort of experience where you can grab a glass of wine, order some dinner, sit at a table and watch, hey, I wrote Toby Keith's big hit back in the 90s, whatever it might be. And it's really cool. It's like it's not Toby Keith, but you hear the story of them writing it and all of that. And I was like, I really would like to bring that experience in the home for guests to experience. And so I've networked and found through Instagram kind of almost like an agent that has just a Rolodex of amazing songwriters that have written worldwide number one hits. And of course, the tier of prices goes up depending on who you're getting to come perform. But my guests are able to book that experience at a discounted rate and be able just to pull up a couple chairs, turn on the fire, pour a glass of wine while the private chef's doing his thing, whatever it may be. And then you've got, 2, 3 songwriters who are just kind of giving some background stories of their time, with the artist or just in the Nashville music scene. And it's just been such a really cool experience for guests as well.
I bet. I mean, I wouldn't even think about that. I guess coming to Nashville, the unique thing about Nashville is you can walk down the street and walk into any honky tonk bar, and the person playing country could be like the next country star the next year, right?
Totally.
Like amazing musicians. So it's really cool to think that you can have one of those come to your house.
Yep.
So we've talked about a lot of the good thing, but I happen to follow you on Instagram, and I saw a recent story of yours that had about 10 trash bags sitting
Yep.
outside your home as well. So there's the ups of hosting an Airbnb.
Totally.
Let's talk about maybe a challenge or two that surprised you. What would be something that you would share that you were like, oh, I didn't think about this, that you faced, that you overcame it and found a solution for?
I can't think of like a very specific thing. It's really a lot of little things. Even today, one of my guests was like, I need a steamer. Do you have a steamer here? Could have sworn there was a steamer there. Definitely is a steamer there, probably somewhere. But one of those things where with that guest communication, not only am I sending out automated messages, but the minute I get something from Airbnb, I'm on that thing. So I was able just to respond to her quickly, please look, feel free to look here, blah, blah, blah. She couldn't find it. Thankfully, I live kind of nearby the units, which is great. But a lot of people who host remotely have boots on the ground. I know you have one in Joshua Tree and you're not in Joshua Tree right now, but surely you have someone you could call to be able to say, hey, steamer to the house as soon as you can, and kind of make sure that the guest is taken care of in that way. So it's just really little things. Yeah, yesterday we just opened the garage door to like tons of trash. And then one of the vents that are on the floor, it's like a wood vent for the air to come up. I don't know what someone did, but it's just cracked all the way through. But just making sure I'm really close as well with my cleaner and my handyman as well. My boy Ambrosio and Valine, those two run the business, I'm telling you. And we make sure to pay them well and give them bonuses and make sure that they feel cared for. And they are always like, Ambrosio, man, I need you. Here's a picture. This is at Music Hall, second floor, back bedroom. It would be great if you could come by and fix it. On my way. So, yeah, so just getting that fixed immediately. Yeah, he took all the trash out. So I think also building those relationships with the people that you have as boots on the ground. I was cleaning next to my cleaner yesterday because we had a quick turn. Just different things, and it depends on the experience that you want to have as well. But yeah, you just never know the dishwasher just happens to not work, or the Wi-Fi doesn't want to work, and it's just really thinking on your toes and making the guest feel heard instead of being like, that's not supposed to happen, or what did you do? Just thinking through, if I were a guest, how would I want someone to respond to me? I know that we stayed at a place one time, me and my friends, and the AC in the summertime just like was not working and it was hot. And all we needed was just for the Airbnb host just to make us feel heard. Like, my gosh, it must be so hot. I'm so sorry about that. I'm bringing you some extra fans. Happy to refund $200 of your stay. Whatever that may be, just making us feel heard is making the guest feel heard is a big portion of it. Quick responses, having boots on the ground, and like knowing them very well, and having backups for those boots on the ground people, keeping extra supplies if needed. But it's, for the most part, it's smooth sailing, which is nice, and it's rewarding to hear when people are like thankful, or whenever you do have those downtimes where the Wi-Fi isn't working or whatever, and they still say, what a wonderful stay. I was on the karaoke stage the whole time. Loved this, this, and this. The location was great. That makes it all worth it. So,
So I heard a couple things there. One, you have an amazing team around you.
yep.
Teams, when you run at least a couple Airbnbs, are huge. And the two most important people are not the owner, not the host. They are the cleaner and the handyman. If you don't have a good cleaner or handyman, nothing about turnovers works, and you are going to suffer. So get yourself a really solid cleaner who thinks like an owner. That's one key. Cleaner who looks around and thinks, how would Taylor want me to clean? How would Taylor want me to address this? And then a handyman who is ready to go, answers the phone in the first ring and says, I'm on it. Those two things are so massive, and they're hard to find. So if you're thinking about doing Airbnb, start looking for those now.
Mhm.
Um,
And a good place to find them is Facebook groups or friend of a
yes.
friend. I found Valine, my cleaner, just from hanging out with some of my parents' friends, and they're like, "Man, I have this one, company that I use, but there's this one lady who works. Her name's Valine, and she just makes it shine." And I was like, "Give me her number right now." So
Yeah.
it's really just talking to people and looking on Facebook groups, like I said, and even Indeed, or there's different ways to be able to find those people. But really, I feel like referral is the biggest way to find those awesome, solid people.
Yeah, reaching out to other Airbnbs in the area. I love going on Instagram, following the other homes. One, it's just really cool to see other Airbnbs what they've done. And so I genuinely like following other Airbnbs in our area. But when I need a handyman and for whatever reason the one isn't available, I'll reach out to other homes, or I'll go post in a local Facebook group. Those two things are very important.
Mm,
You mentioned something that's really, really important that some people overlook too, especially if you haven't been in the customer service business in your life, and all of a sudden you become an Airbnb host and you get a guest and they complain and you roll your eyes and you think like, "Ugh, I wouldn't complain like that, or I wouldn't say that." They're just looking for one thing. They're not looking for it to be resolved right away. They're looking to be heard. right?
Mm-hmm.
They want to know that there's someone on their side listening and that will empathize with them. And that's
Yep.
all it takes. You may not be able to resolve the air conditioning right away. You may not be able to resolve certain things. You can offer refunds, sure, that helps. But honestly, I found the most success with just making sure they're heard, figuring out how I can communicate with them when I will resolve it as quickly as possible. And those guests tend to leave the best reviews.
Totally.
That's what,
Yep.
that's what's interesting. The ones who
Yep.
are
It
what you
is.
think would leave the bad review are the ones who are leave you glowing reviews and say, "Wow, Taylor went out of her way to make sure that we're comfortable during our stay and fix the issue."
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And also, the Airbnb algorithm loves responsiveness. What is one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is considering hosting?
As I've kind of said before, just thinking through the experience that you'd want to have, thinking about the offerings of the community and just the city itself, thinking through even little things. I know that people are trying, with Airbnbs, people are trying to make money as well. There's other things that you can do too, like filling the fridge for an extra $150 or allowing early check-in for $150 or storing luggage. Just there's different things to be able to like add to their experience while helping the host out as well. That's not as difficult as you think it is. People, I know friends that have had property management companies run their listings and then they take it over themselves and they're like, "Oh, it's actually really fun." So, just giving yourself some trust in that experience as well and knowing kind of what the guest might want.
Yeah, you put yourself in the shoes of the guest a lot. I keep hearing you say that, and that is so important. It's a good reminder for me. It's like, what would you want? What would you want that owner to say? What would you want to
Mhm.
experience? All right, so
Exactly.
we're gonna close out the conversation. I have a review from a year ago that someone left on Music Hall, and I want to read it. It says, so Michael, 1 year ago, stayed in June of 2023. First, the place was beautiful, spotless, well decorated, plenty of space. We had a friend with a broken leg with us, so the elevator was a huge help. The location is just outside the Gulch neighborhood, nice and quiet, short Uber from Broadway. Now, as far as Taylor, we couldn't have asked for a better host. We booked this place about 5 to 6 months in advance, and she regularly checked in every couple of months or so with info and updates. The day of our check in, she checked in multiple times and even let us know the place was ready a bit early. She also checked in during our stay. We've rented from Airbnb, Verbo, and even cars from Turo, and have never had a host as amazing as Taylor. Definitely recommend. That's awesome.
Aw, I
Wanted
needed
to
that.
share
Thank you.
that. And we all need that.
Yes,
So this was an incredible conversation. I learned a lot personally. I hope the audience members did. Can you tell everyone just real quick the homes that you want them to look for on Airbnb and where to find you?
for sure. Yep. So, let's see. If you even find me on Instagram, my friends call me Tiki Tay. I really don't know why. I just have the tiki vibe to me. I just love it. So it's Tiki __ Tay. But all of my Airbnbs are listed in my bio to go click to go link to their Instagram pages. And in their Instagram pages, they have the Airbnb links as well. But yeah, they're called Music Hall, Holiday House, and Archer House, and they all have three different vibes. If you're looking for beachy, if you're looking for crate and barrel, if you're looking for hop on a stage and sing a karaoke song, different strokes for different folks, but all really, really good times. So I'd love to host anybody. And we do direct booking as well if you reach out to us on Instagram. So if you reach out using the word built, DM us the word built. Maybe we can do a little collab, Tony.
I
Yeah,
love it. We'll share that in the show notes. I love that.
perfect.
We'll definitely do a collab. And if we're going to Nashville, I know where we're staying. So check out Taylor's homes if you're planning that weekend in Nashville. Taylor, thank you so much. And thanks for coming on the show.
For sure. Thanks, Tony.